Good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you're here.
Hi, we have a little surprise for you today, but first let me welcome you to our August Seniors Living Smarter webinar, The Secrets of Touring a Retirement Community. One thing we've learned in the last year is how important flexibility it is and how important it is to be able to pivot. I'm not sure, some of us are getting a little tired of the word pivot, but that's what we're doing right now. We were looking forward to being live with you this month at First Presbyterian, but with the increasing numbers of COVID, it just did not seem a good time to bring a group of people together. So we've opted to take advantage of our friendly Zoom platform another time. And we're glad we had that opportunity to be with people. I am Virginia Lazenby. I'm host of the seminar series. I'm a certified senior downsizing coach and realtor. And some of you are saying, well, your voice sounds a little different. You are absolutely right. I think I'm in line with our graphic, the little detectives investigating the community. So I'm trying to slither in, I guess. I should have worn a trench coat and hat. But I'm doing well. I was tested positive for COVID last week, so I've been hanging out. Fortunately, it's been mild. I was vaccinated, did my part there. But my main thing now is I have a yucky cough. So so you don't have to listen to the distraction of the yucky cough, my more than capable assistant, Brielle Giard, is going to be the host today. And I'm just thrilled you're here. I'm going to be on the call. I'll be available should there be questions or anything I can answer, but you're in good hands. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this meeting over to Brielle and thank her so very much for stepping in. And take it away, Brielle.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, thank you so much for your flexibility as we move from the opportunity to be together to now being together online again this month. And we just appreciate all of you joining us and being here. Before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors because they really make these seminars possible for our community. So we want to thank the Wesleyan, Visiting Angels, Vera Bank, Silver Key Benefits, and Seniors Living Smarter Services. We really can't do this work without their support, so thank you. And thank you to Virginia for being confident in me to host this morning and to be with all of you. And we have some really great panelists, and their expertise is going to give you a lot of knowledge and information. And that's really the goal of these free Seniors Living Smarter Services seminars, is to equip, educate, and inspire seniors to be informed, to make good choices, and empower you concerning your lifestyle goals. And what does that mean for your future and in your plans for your senior living? And so when we talk about senior living, we talk about different types of communities. And so for some of you, this is going to be a review on what those communities look like, but we did want to talk about what those communities really look like. So we have independent living communities, which are generally going to be for 55, possibly 62 and older. And those communities have amenities and activities that are really geared for seniors. And in those communities, you're going to have services such as meal plans, your transportation would be available to you, light housekeeping, all that is included in an independent community living. In 55 plus apartments, you're going to have those same types of amenities and activities that are provided for seniors that really fit your lifestyle, but you would be responsible for your own transportation and your own meals, taking care of your apartment, things like that. There would be maintenance for like the apartment itself, and in terms of housekeeping and things, you would be responsible for that. And then, of course, for those who have daily needs, for bathing and showering, clothing, medication, that would fall under assisted living. Of course, there's other communities that are more specialized for memory care and long-term care, but today we're really going to focus on the independent living 55 plus communities and what you should be looking for if you are interested in starting to make that path and look for where your next living situation is going to be. What are the questions? What do you want to know? What is the culture of these different communities, and where do you feel like you're going to fit in? And so we're going to talk about what those questions might be when you start to make those tours and start connecting with these communities. Today, we've got wonderful experts with us, and I'm so grateful. Again, this is all new for me to be here with you in this capacity. And so having experts like Cristy and Jacqueline here are going to make this wonderful experience for you. So we do have Cristy Bryant Schuler, and many of you have seen Cristy on the seminars before. She's here with us from the Wesleyan. And then we also have Jacqueline Clark, who is the Senior Living Consultant at Lakeline Oaks Retirement Community. So Jacqueline and Cristy, could you all introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Clark. I'm the Senior Living Consultant over at Lakeline Oaks in Cedar Park, Texas. And we provide a lifestyle, if you will. We're all inclusive. Luxury. We provide meals, housekeeping, transportation, all bills included. We have a full-time lifestyle director who coordinates all of our events and activities. And we're here to simplify your life and help you to redirect your focus on things that are more important to you than keeping a house and mowing the lawn and all that kind of stuff.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cristy Bryant Schuler, and I am with the Wesleyan here in Georgetown. We are a full continuum of care, so we have independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, home health, hospice, and rehab. We sit on a 55-acre campus right off of down from the Catfish Parlor, down from Sun City in Georgetown. So I hope you guys find this informative, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
So the format for today is that we're going to go through a series of questions that we have for Jacqueline and Cristy this morning, and then we will open up to you all to ask the questions that you might have that are relevant to your needs and what you want to know about the secrets of discovering the touring or retirement community. So we're going to start off with our first question. We often hear people say, "I'm not ready to move to one of those communities." So why would I want to go visit one? What's the right time for somebody to go visit a community? Jacqueline, what do you think?
I think there is no time like the present to plan your future. And so you should never hold back. As a matter of fact, coming to the communities and getting a tour and meeting the staff and meeting the residents and learning more what we're about in the present is going to help you better plan for your future. It's going to give you something to think about, and it'll actually help narrow down the timelines for you, because a lot of times, more often than not, people will just throw out a random time. You know, I might be ready in a year, 2 years, 5 years, but that seems very open-ended. So again, coming to the communities and educating yourself and learning a little bit more, and also staying involved with the communities. That's going to help you decide when is the right time.
Mm-hmm. I echo Jacqueline's sentiment. I think that I always say to people, you need to know us before you need to know us. And so college, when you look for colleges and when you're doing that, like I'm doing that with my son right now. And I think that the more campuses you can visit and the more communities that you can take a look at, then you really are taking control of what happens and what happens next. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Hey, I'm going to move to a senior community today. Let's go." It's a process. So the sooner you start the process, the more you're able to learn about different communities and what really fits your lifestyle, because we all kind of do the same thing, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And so things that happen in different communities look different in different communities. So the more time you have to look at those, the better decision, the more informed you're going to be when it is time.
That's right. Well, and for anyone who's
Perfectly
ever been on a seminar with Virginia before, don't wait till the crisis. Waiting until it's time to move is not the time to start deciding where you want to be. It's, you know, look now and what really fits your needs and where do you feel comfortable and have that plan. So we appreciate you all. I wanted to let you all know that Erin Toepel has just joined us. She's here from Affinity 55 Plus Apartments in Round Rock, and she's going to also be joining our panel this morning. So Erin, thank you for being here. Could you take yourself off mute and just introduce yourself real quickly?
Hi, I'm Erin Toepel. I am the community director at Affinity at Round Rock. I've been in the Texas area for 10 years. I've worked at a variety of retirement communities, opened up a few of them myself, and been at this property for over a year. So it's really nice to see the different types of senior living options available for those around us and really get a feel for what is a type of good fit for each person, because each person's needs are unique. And, you know, I completely agree with what everyone else says. Due to any life crises or events that occur, it's always good to look 1 to 2 years out, really have an idea of what type of community you're looking for so you can really get involved in that type of culture and know that's the right fit for you. But thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here this morning, Erin. So we'll move to the next question, a related question. Won't I be giving up my freedom if I moved into an independent community? What would you say to somebody who felt that way?
So I think
Personally say, I'm sorry.
I think you gain more freedom when you do move into a community, because you're no longer having to worry about the day-to-day household responsibility and life stresses that you deal with on a normal basis. Being a first-time homeowner myself, I feel like there's constantly things I need to do, get the lawn guy out, roof needs repair from hailstorm, get gutters cleaned. And when you're in a community, you have that freedom to really focus on your hobbies and passions and really focus on you and what you're looking for to thrive in this new environment.
Jacqueline, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say exactly the same thing. And I think the reason why it's even more important to for people to come to the community to answer that age-old question is because a lot of people have a misconceived notion of what these communities are about. This era, back in their day when they were younger, there wasn't, for the most part, there wasn't these kind of options. And so I think, you know, when my grandmother was, you know, when I was younger and my grandmother was alive, all they had was nursing homes. And way back then, I mean, they also weren't like this. I mean, they, you know, these communities are very beautiful, very welcoming, very warm, you know, family oriented, that type of thing. So I think it's important for people to come and ask those questions too, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. If, you know, am I going to be giving up my freedom? I mean, I've even had people ask me if they have to give up their car. No, absolutely not. Or they think that their grandchildren can't come visit or anything like that. No, bring the grandchildren. They love it here. They love our fish pond and our ice cream machine. You know, so I think just asking the questions will help also put people at ease and be able to allow them to relax a little bit and enjoy the tour. And maybe if they do decide to participate in an event or activity, it'll help them, you know, enjoy it to, you know, to the point where they can envision themselves and see themselves maybe in this lifestyle.
Well, Jacqueline, I loved when we had our pre-meeting the other day when we were talking about all this, your story about the gentleman who enjoyed the woodworking and his concerns.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I had toured a couple a while back, husband and wife, and it seems like with the husband and wife scenarios, there's always one that's really outgoing, outspoken. The other one's usually a little introverted, you know, kind of holds back. And those are the ones I like, you know, to really try to drill into, because I know that there's questions. They just don't want to answer them. They're just kind of being more observant than anything. And so I finally asked the couple, I was just like, you know, is there anything particular that's holding you back or would cause you not to be ready for this? And I found out the husband was really into woodworking. He had a little woodworking setup in his garage. He made like chess games out of wood. I mean, he's very talented, and he just wasn't ready to give that up. And I told him, I said, well, just because you come here, you don't have to give that up. We have detached garages. They have electricity. Bring your woodworking shop here. And he was like, I could do that. And I was like, absolutely. And so again, that's why it's really important. No concern is too little to voice. If you have any kind of concern, any obstacle, anything holding you back, you have to be upfront and forward about it. Sometimes we can overcome these obstacles, sometimes we can't, but we wouldn't know either way unless you tell us what's on your mind and what's holding you back.
And Cristy, what would you add to that?
I think that that's a common theme with a lot of people, and I can understand that apprehension. Freedom, I think what tends to happen as we grow is that we think our house equates freedom. But what we talk about a lot when I do tours at independent living is how much are you getting out? How often do you see your friends? Where are you going? And so there's hurdles for a lot of people with traffic and transportation and things like that. And so what we try to do at the Wesleyan is enable that resident to do all the things that they like to do without having to worry about it. So socialization is the #1 determinant factor of how long you'll live. And I always thought that was really interesting. It's not, your genetics play a role, but how often you interact with people, and that can look different for everybody. That can be sitting in the lobby, reading a paper, or being in a library, or that can be participating in every single activity that our community has to offer. But I think COVID really highlighted how your home can be a prison instead of freedom. And so, much like Jacqueline said with the wood shop, we have a wood shop here at the Wesleyan. We try to, this is your home, and we want it to feel, we want the apartment to be your room and the building to be your home. And so you're not really downsizing if you think about it that way, with all the amenities that all of our communities have to offer.
So that's a great segue into our next question. Aren't all independent communities alike?
No.
What are some differences? No. So Cristy, take it.
Well, I think that, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And so there are some things that are important to some people and some things that aren't important to others. Our moniker, if you will, at the Wesleyan, we're faith-based and we're not for profit. And so that shapes a lot of how we do things. And there are things that are important to some people that aren't to others. And so again, I'm just going to fall back on that. You have to tour, you have to go look at everything that, like Jacqueline mentioned, their fishing pond. If fishing is important to you, that's something that may be your key amenity. Everybody is different. And I think that that's one of the wonderful things about the kind of everybody coming to this part of Texas right now, is because we have all these different things for different types of people. We're serving a community that really is nationwide, if you think about it, especially, in the Georgetown area with Sun City being right there. I'm a native Texan, but we have people from all over the country. So that influences how we do our food. That influences, not the holidays that we observe, but things that we take in. So yeah, I think it's important to tour as many as you can.
Erin, would you like to add to that?
Sure. I think each community offers its own personality based on the residents that live there and the staff that help promote the events and the activities. Being in a 55 and up, the residents have so many great ideas and they take it and run with it. So when you're showing people around, I think it's extremely important to introduce them to residents and really get a feel of the culture of each community, because it's not one size fits all. You don't want someone to move in that won't necessarily be happy in that type of environment. You want them to feel comfortable so that they're not looking to make another move in the future. And being able to tour the property, get to know the residents, and really get a feel for the environment that they'll live in their future in the next couple of days or months. It's really important for them to feel comfortable when they walk into a property and really get that first impression and know that that is huge when you walk in. Those first impressions really do make or break you when you walk in the front doors of each different community.
And how can a potential resident get a feel for what it's like? when you go on the tour, but how are you really getting a feel for what that community or what that culture really is like? Jacqueline, do you want to speak to that?
On how we set up the tour and what your main objective or goal initially is going to be. Personally, whenever I'm talking to somebody, I try to set a tour where we can maybe incorporate a meal or an activity or an event. I like to bring people in when they can see the life of the building and what we do here, so they can see it and witness it firsthand, or maybe even experience it firsthand. If somehow that's not accomplished during the first visit, I do invite people back. And then say, for example, if someone's coming for a meal, you know, the second go around, I even like to maybe sit them with some other residents, and I'll personally step out of the picture, because that gives my prospects the freedom to ask a rent-paying resident, you know, what their living experience here is like, how they like it, what got them here, what it took to get them here, what they enjoy the most, maybe what they enjoy the least. You know, personally, honesty is the best policy. So I like to, that's why another reason why I like to connect them, because like I said, they'll get a real genuine response to some of their, you know, very intimate questions about the community. And again, it's a process. Come back a couple more times. Come in. If you did the meal the first time, come for an event or activity. You know, we have them all the time. We have a calendar that's just chock full of events and activities. So there's bound to be something that you'd be interested in, or even if you want to just look back from a distance, you know. So I think that's the best way to get involved and be involved and experience it firsthand.
Mm-hmm. Cristy, how is that at the Wesleyan? How would you recommend that somebody get a real feel for what it's like, what your community and culture is like at the Wesleyan?
Well, I'll be completely honest, recognizing some of the names that are watching the seminar. We have multiple visitors throughout the years. People will come and they'll come back, and I think coming to different events, but also too, I try to, just like Jacqueline said, I try to cater the tour towards what interests that person. So if I know they're really big on water aerobics, I'm going to schedule that tour during a time where I know there's a water aerobics class. We also have an ambassador group and a welcoming committee at the community. So there are, not since COVID, but in the past, what I would do is we'll do resident tours where residents actually tour the potential residents that are coming in, because I think you get a completely different feel from somebody that actually lives in the community as opposed to somebody who works in the community. So we have a lot of events going on, just like I'm sure Erin and you guys do in your community. So the more you can see that, the more you can interact with it. And again, it's a process. You're not going to, very rarely do we have, it's been my experience that I don't tour somebody and then they move in the next week. It's a relationship. And I think that that's one of our foundations at the Wesleyan. Is building relationships with the people in the community, because sometimes we're not the right community for them, but having connections with our peer groups like Jacqueline and Erin and saying, hey, you know, this might not be a good fit, but what's important to you? So having that opportunity to really care about where they go and what they want, I think we all have that vested interest.
I appreciate all of you saying that, because we don't want to come onto these and feel like we're promoting one particular community. And I love that each of you have touched on that we're really here to say these are all the different options. And that's the real goal here, is that you're finding what fits your needs. And so, Erin, do you have anything to add to how you would want people to feel the culture at Affinity there?
Yeah, I mean, like Jackie and Cristy said, I think it's really important to allow residents to show off their home. They're so proud. They take ownership and pride in where they live. And I leave at night. So, you know, to have someone be connected with someone who actually lives here and really sees the culture at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you know, it really gives them that idea of the type of people that live here and gives them that camaraderie, so that when they do make the move, they're not feeling overwhelmed, because they do already have connections that they've made with past visits at the community.
So we see a lot of times that event calendar, the monthly calendar, and it's chock full. Is that realistic? Do those activities happen? What's going on in your community?
It is for us. We have, you know, obviously, I'm sorry, I keep bringing up COVID. We shut it down, we brought it back. We have anywhere between 60 and 72 things a week. So we were up to 80 at one point. I always tell people you can take Russian or you can go to the coloring class. So, and those are all, for the most part, resident run activities, unless it's a fitness class. And I think empowering people to do what they love to do and share their passions with other residents is really what it's all about. So giving everyone the tools, and we do the things they don't want to do so that they can do the things they want to do. That's what it's about.
Either of you like to add to that? Is that calendar
Sure.
full?
We even like to do field trips and outings from time to time, kind of the same thing. COVID kind of put a damper on that, but we are firing that back up again. And we like to get out of the community too. We do a lot here. There's a lot to do, but you know, people, this is an active, you know, we're active here. People like to still do things and get out and participate in activities outside the community too. So we incorporate things on the outside as well as on the inside. So again, it kind of depends on, you know, what's important to you and what you enjoy the most.
And Erin, I know at a 55 plus apartment type community, they need to provide their own transportation thing. Is your calendar is full because people are a little more mobile to leave campus and do their own things? Do you provide as much activity?
Yeah, all of our events are resident driven. Each month I do have an events committee that meets with me so we can discuss for the next couple of months and plan accordingly to make sure I'm providing them or helping them with this process of getting these events up and running. Yesterday was National Banana Split Day and we had a few prospects come, and I love those random holidays where National Unicorn Day, we did string art with the residents, but I love to incorporate, you know, ideas of mine, but also get their feedback because ultimately it is resident driven, but the management is here to help provide that support and help facilitate these events and really allow them a chance to enjoy themselves and not stress and just sit back, relax. This is what they want to do. And they always have a great time. We have a pretty full calendar starting at 9 in the morning with exercise all the way until karaoke at night. Sometimes it lasts until 9:30, 10 p.m. I don't really know. The stories I hear are priceless, but I love the fact that even when we leave at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the residents still have so much going on. And there's all different types of residents here with different interests. So every day we offer like a matinee, make popcorn for the residents who really enjoy watching movies. They pick the movies because if they don't want to play bridge, then they want to have something else to do. We do grill outs with the residents, s'mores around the bonfire. It's just trying to facilitate these events in a way that you know you're touching a lot of these residents and making sure that we're providing or helping them come up with ideas so that they all can participate and lead a very fulfilling lifestyle here.
Great. Sound like great places. Lots of fun going on. So a common question is, what if my spouse needs assistance with activities and daily living while I'm able to live independently? What do we do? What does that look like for each of you in your different types of communities? Cristy?
Well, in an independent living environment, we do, it depends on what that person needs. So when we have a spouse couple together, one of the most common questions I get asked is that, and then it is immediately followed by what happens if I need assisted living? How does that work? What does that look like? And so we have our own past caregiver service, but Stacy Scarborough also has Visiting Angels, who I know they're a sponsor. You can bring in those services to help provide for those needs. And as long as you're safe in an independent living environment, then we are completely and totally fine with that. And it's up to the resident to kind of decide what they need and what that looks like for them. Maybe it's medication reminders, maybe it's things like that. Independent living has no governmental oversight, so there isn't like a physical that you're going to take to say for us to say yes, you can come in or no, you can't. But for us, it's are you safe? Are you safe? And if you're not, then we need to kind of reevaluate what can we do to help, advance that process. Do you need to bring help in, or is it at the point where we need to look at maybe moving to a higher level of care? And so that is a very sensitive subject, and I think that we always try to handle that with preserving as much dignity as we can. And one of the things, I think it's a misnomer when people think they can't be in independent living because they have a scooter or because they have a walker. We want you to use whatever device you need to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. So that's kind of, there's not a stigma with that. So you'll see independent living residents that live in my building in Virginia. You know who I'm thinking about when I'm talking about Ron, but we've got one of our most active residents. He rides a scooter, but he's going to basketball games. He's running and gunning. And so he's very independent. So I think it looks different for everybody. And that's the important thing, is that there's not a one size fits all for that.
Jacqueline, I think you wanted to say something there.
I mentioned, like here at Lakeline Oaks, even though we're strictly independent living, we do have an age in place philosophy. So we do allow third-party medical providers and organizations to serve our residents here in the privacy of their own home. I think that couples where maybe one of them is a little weaker or has more needs than the other, that's why this is ideal, because they can still live together. Matter of fact, you could almost live here for the rest of your life. There's only really a couple of reasons why you might need to go to a higher level of care. One is just, maybe cognitively, if you're a safety issue to yourself, because we're not a lockdown community. We don't monitor you coming and going. So if someone, maybe is on the, has like Alzheimer's and they're on the advanced stages of that disease and they become a wanderer. If you walk out our front door and you walk up the street and can't find your way back, obviously this is not the safest place for you. Or if you do literally need 24/7 care, then that's another reason why you might need to go to a higher level of care. But I think the spouse that doesn't have as many care needs, who maybe in the past has served as a caretaker for the other spouse, that's another reason why they appreciate this lifestyle, because it kind of gives them a break. You're not having to worry about cooking and cleaning and doing the driving and all that kind of stuff. That's what we're here for. We help with that. And then if you just incorporate a caregiver or a care provider, that can help with maybe some minor medical situations. But then you have a quality relationship again, because you're not serving as a caregiver to each other, by incorporating a caregiver. And, and the fact that we have all the inclusive amenities too. So it allows you to, again, have a quality of life, have a quality marriage.
Erin, do you have anything to add to that at the 55 plus apartment lifestyle?
Yeah, people have been married 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years. So they're used to their spouse being around them and they want to age in place with their spouse. So we're lucky in that we have great home health referrals if they do need that additional support. Having the gym here, being able to provide water aerobics, really building their strengths so that get to that level that they are more independent, so that their spouse is having to care for them as much. Being that caregiver, they can have that quality marriage that Jacqueline was talking about and really feel like the spouse again. But we are big believers in, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's all about motivation. It's all about getting them out and about, getting them active, socializing with each other. And you see miracles every day here. You see people that come in that might have had a life event that occurred, and they are more spry than I am at this point, because they're really fully taking advantage of all that we have to offer here to make sure that they're using their bodies, they're using their brain, they're stimulated. And we just try and encourage that if they do need that additional support, we have the resources. And if, dementia comes into play, we have great partnerships with the surrounding higher levels of care community so that if they do need to live in another more secure environment, perhaps at least it's close so that the spouses are still able to visit if it does become an issue where safety is a concern. But we definitely try and think outside of the box to keep the spouses together as long as they safely can remain together.
So if we have people here today who are interested and they're like, yeah, I think it's time, I really want to start visiting communities, what would be their first steps? What would you say they should start to do, and how would they go about setting up those types of visits? What is the process there for setting up a visit?
Just give me a call.
So calling, and Cristy, what do you?
Same. I think calling and scheduling a tour. We have a great website. We have virtual tours that we can send, but I don't think a virtual tour can really put in place of what being in a community can bring to it, the feel of it. But I would start, if it were myself, I would start by having a whole list. Like I said, the more the merrier. Calling and seeing if you can schedule tours, looking at their website, because there may be some right off the bat because of location or whatever you're going to eliminate. But I really think it's a good rule of thumb to visit every place and visit it more than once. I will say that there was a time where people could just drop in, and right now, because of the demand, and I'm sure that you guys are experiencing the same thing because of the housing market. Currently, I'm doing anywhere from 3 to 5 tours a day, so it's really important to schedule it beforehand. But I'm happy to do that, and so mine would be calling.
Okay. And Erin, what is the process? Same thing, call?
Calling, emailing, we can set up visits online, but I agree. I think a virtual visit is great, but to really get the full idea of all that we have to offer, I would actually rather them come in. I think the first visit's extremely important. You really want to figure out what's important to them in their future home so that you are not feature dumping, but instead focusing on the amenity spaces they'll actually utilize. And I know with COVID, it's a little different now, but at the same token, throughout my experience of doing this, I always encourage families to drop in. I think it's important to catch a community, not really off guard, but when they don't know that they're expecting you, you really see how the day-to-day lifestyle really happens here. And we always have so much going on all the time. When they walk in the doors, it's like, you are welcome to come, because you, again, want them to really get that full idea of what being a resident here is going to look like. But calling, emailing, working with some advisors to set up visits. We have 3 members of our sales team here, and we're always ready to show anyone around, whether it be a walk-in, a phone call, scheduled visit, email. We are ready to show people around and offer a great visit for them.
So I know all of you had mentioned being there in person, and obviously that's the most ideal under any circumstances. What if somebody is trying to move a family member from out of state, or their best friend wants to retire in the same community with them, is ready to move to the Austin area? How do you do tours and communicate with those long distance folks, or those who may not feel comfortable right now going and touring a facility or a community? Jacqueline.
So I have gotten creative in the past where I've had like the adult children who live nearby, mom and dad is, I don't know, in Ohio. I've done FaceTime tours where I've had the adult children with me, and then we FaceTime mom and dad and we did the tour. And then I would also send a lot of information too. And we have videos, the same thing. There's a lot you can find out about us through our website and our Facebook page in regards to what we do. And then again, either a Zoom meeting like this or a FaceTime tour definitely comes in handy. I think Erin had kind of touched on something too. I think, when you're talking to somebody in advance, in trying to schedule that tour. It is also important to kind of get some background of maybe what initiated the call, why you're looking to make a change, and then conduct a tour around that person's wants or needs, because maybe not everybody at first wants to walk in while there's a big event going on. Some people want to have a more personalized, intimate tour. So, you know, any of the above can be arranged. It's all about what you want.
Great. Cristy, how do you all handle more virtual type tours or long distance inquiries?
A couple of weeks ago, just like Jacqueline, I had a grandson come in, and I told him when we were done, he could do my job because his grandmother was on FaceTime. We were walking around the community, and my residents were like, "Cristy, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a FaceTime tour. Say hi." You know, so I think FaceTime, the technology is great, you know, and I think if you trust your family members, we also have a telephone tree. So if I know enough about you, if I know that you're retired from the telephone industry or you're an engineer, I may have a resident. I have very gregarious residents that want to interact and connect and are always excited to meet new people. And I will have them call and say, "Hey, is it okay if I have a resident call you?" And just kind of, because it's again, I think we need to keep in mind that it's a different kind of move, and I think acknowledging that is important. And I think it was Erin that said, we don't want you to have to make another move right away. We want you to, our goal is to make you happy and that you feel comfortable, and however we can facilitate that happening, whether it's actually interacting with the resident on the phone or me or the FaceTime. I think there's lots of advancements that have been made that can give you a more personal tour, even if you're not there in person.
Great. And Erin, are there options for you guys?
Yeah, I think, you know, the key is when you're setting up a virtual visit, you need to do the discovery, figure out what they might want to participate in so you can incorporate that in your virtual visit, so that they can meet, you know, the dance crew here, the line dancers that meet weekly, or also I think just showing them around an empty apartment. Sometimes people like myself don't really have that imagination to where it's like, oh yeah, my bed's going to fit here. My dresser's going to fit perfectly here. So what I really like to do is kind of plan ahead of time so that I have a chance to talk to a resident who might be in the same style of apartment that this family might be interested in, so that I can show them the empty apartment and then say, well, come meet Mrs. Smith. She has the same style apartment. You can talk with her and she can show you around her apartment, how she decorated it and furnished it. And you get really good ideas. Plus, you're also meeting residents and seeing how they have fit a larger home into this smaller space to really accommodate their needs.
That's great. That's great. Are floor plans available to people so that they can see what the space does look like in advance? Yes. We have them available online, models kind of giving an example of how it can be set up. Plus, we do have a model on site here, but I also do enjoy showing them differences of residents and how they decorate. I think that's one of my favorite part of my jobs is have someone move from another state and then, you know, they invite you in after they're fully unpacked and ready to go, and you walk in and it's like each apartment has its own personality because the people that are coming in really have made it their own home, and I love seeing that every day. Great. So thank you all for sharing that. I know that's a question for a lot of people, like they're very interested, but they don't know really how to start that process. Who do I reach out to? How do I set that tour up? So it's great to know that just a phone call away, they can start that process, and they'll be connected with the right people who can help them, no matter what the community is. It seems like you all do a really fantastic job of connecting people. A question that is always going to come up, and Virginia's done entire seminars and things about this, is the cost of senior living. And that's always going to be a priority question for seniors who are looking for this next senior lifestyle living. What is it going to cost, and where do I go from there when I'm starting to look at doing tours? So how do you approach that as people are starting this process?
Well, I know that when I typically sit down with my tours before we actually tour the community, and I have a cost comparison worksheet that I can share with them, that they can list their prices that they're paying currently versus what we would cover in the community, kind of do a side-by-side comparison. And they can get pricing, not online, but if they call, we can send it to them. But I think it's good to do your math beforehand so that you kind of know what floor plan fits with you and fits with your budget.
Jacqueline?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, that's one of the upfront things I go over. I do like for people to give me the opportunity to explain the value behind the price before we actually go into the specific price. And then also, like, for example, we provide 3 meals a day. That's one of the things. And I've had prospects that maybe would only eat twice a day. And so, you know, obviously you don't have to eat the 3rd meal. It doesn't impact the price either way if you do or you don't indulge in that 3rd meal. But I tell people we have so many amenities and services that we offer. We don't expect everybody to indulge in every service, every amenity we have anyway. We know that's not possible to do every single thing, but our prices are very well rounded based on what what people do utilize. And so we kind of explain that. And I also like to tell people it's not even just what is covered or what is included, but it's also about, again, going back to quality of life. The fact that there's so much value to it. You're a lot of times, myself, I hate going to the grocery store. You go and you buy all the groceries, you come home, you have to unload it, put it all away. And then during meal times, take everything out, cook. And then after you eat, clean, put everything back. It's all of that stuff that and there's almost, there's no price you can put on that. The freedom of not having to do that anymore, or scheduling the lawn people or the maid service or, all that kind of stuff. There's a value in itself just behind that too. So it's kind of important to kind of understand the pricing, not just what the price range is, but understand the value behind the pricing.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot because I'm curious. What is the most common question that you are asked when somebody is taking a tour of your community?
For me, is the floor plan available? We have a lot. For the general rule of thumb for me has been the larger the apartment is, the longer you're going to have to wait. And so that's a question I get a lot: is this available, and how long am I going to have to wait?
Jacqueline, what about you? What's the most common question asked when people come to tour your community?
I get asked a lot, same thing about, can I have visitors? Can my grandchildren come? Is there a curfew? Do I still get to drive? Again, these are probably questions from people who had just started their search. And again, back in their younger days, this wasn't available. So they have no idea. So they're very basic questions based on maybe what they knew of when they were younger, when, again, all they had was like nursing homes. So people just want to understand that they're not losing their freedom or their independence. And so I get those independence, freedom related questions. And I tell people, no, you of course you can have visitors. They can either stay in your apartment with you, or we have a guest suite that's rentable by the night. They can, if they want their own space, we can book a guest suite stay for them. Yes, you can, obviously you can still drive, but we do have transportation service. So if you don't want to drive, maybe there's maybe one of your favorite department stores is having a sale, and your group of friends here at the community want to go hit the sale together. Instead of everybody getting into a vehicle, let us drive you there. But you have options and choices. But yes, I think the main thing is freedom and independent related questions.
Sure. And Erin, what about you?
The biggest thing I get, because we're 55 and up, is, why should we move here? Because we paid off our house. We're not ready for assistance per se. And I think a big part of that is really, again, digging deep, figuring out what made them look to begin with, what things they enjoy. And a lot of times you hear people say, oh, well, I used to have all these hobbies, but right now I just watch TV. So really building that value with the socialization aspect of being around others that are your peers, and I can relate to you on a different level than what maybe a younger generation might be able to relate to. But I think just really getting them to understand with the cost comparison sheet of figuring out all that is included in the monthly rent, so that when they are figuring out back and forth, yes, your house is paid for, but the market's insane right now. Look at what you can get for your house, plus years of enjoyable experience here with all your new friends, making new hobbies, making new memories. It's an exciting next chapter of your life. And you really got to get them to build that excitement up too, because this is actually a very exciting time. I know people don't necessarily come into the door skipping, but when they're leaving, definitely want them to skip and be excited, because this is not a bad situation that they're looking. This is going to offer so much more experiences in their life that they have no idea what's really out there until they really truly understand the value of what we offer behind just the monthly amount that they pay that does include everything.
You guys are so informative. I'm so excited that you have been here with us because you shared such great information. When we let you all know that we were having this webinar today, one of the items was, when we were in person, that we were going to have these handouts. Well, we're still going to have those handouts for you. We'll just send them out electronically, but Virginia has put together these fantastic lists of questions that when you're starting to look at communities, what should you be asking? Because it might feel a little intimidating to walk in and see all these things happening, and then you get home and you're like, ooh, I meant to ask. And so if you kind of walk in with something in your hand that's tangible that you can go back to and make sure that your questions are being answered, this is a really great resource. And so items that are on here, what is the community management? Things like how many units, how many people are living here? What are those amenities? Is it possible to change apartments if I'm in one and I want to move? So there's a lot of different great questions on here. What are the living spaces? We've talked a lot about the floor planning and the space planning there. What is the maintenance like? We've got ideas on what the meal planning. Do I have to get a meal? Do I not do meals? What does that look like? How are my health needs taken care of? So there's a lot of really great questions on the handout. And then we also have one if you are looking or eventually move into needing assisted living care in a community. That way, we've got a handout for that as well with questions. So we will email this out to all of our attendees after this webinar. So I just wanted to let you know that that was coming. But we do want to open it up now to all of you that are on the call. And if you have questions specific to our panelists, this is a great time to ask them, what their other secrets might be about what they should be looking for when they start to visit and set up these tours. So we can get in here and let's see, Carl's got his hand raised. Carl, are you there? Carl, you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. One of the questions I have, and I have never had this answered before, but I got a hint of it when we visited one a couple of weeks ago. Is there a qualifying financial and health questionnaire about us? We went to a continuous care facility. There was a slight hint, it came through in a personal conversation about qualifying health-wise for this. And it's I've already done something too late on long-term care that got me in a pickle, but I might disqualify myself for entering probably what I think is the Wesleyan, because they have the continuum of care. And can I be disqualified health-wise from a questionnaire application? You kind of understand what I mean? You know, if you have, I've been disqualified for long-term care, disqualified for changing the supplemental Medicare insurance. And I wonder if that kind of thing would disqualify me from entering the Wesleyan, for instance.
Oh, I think that I'm not really specifically sure what you're referring to, but there is no, to apply to live into independent living, if I were to call and say, hey, we have this apartment available, are you guys willing to take it? If you were to say yes, for the Wesleyan, we have a data application that you would fill out that is a financial kind of background. We don't run any financials. We don't check anything. It's just kind of a 30,000 foot view. And then from a health perspective, I'm not going to ask you really any health care questions as long as your needs are being met and you're living independently now. There's nothing that would disqualify you from moving into the community. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to jump in if that's okay. I think I know where Carl is coming from, and it's a good question, Carl. You know, we have so many different terminologies, and it gets confusing, you know, with different levels of care and continuum of care and continuing care and so on. So yes, the Wesleyan does have independent and assisted and so on. And you have priority to move through that system, which is great. So there are our life care communities, and in a life care, and these terms overlap, where we have a buy-in. And what that is you do have to qualify to buy in. It's a guaranteed, not only that you will have a spot, but that what you will be paying for your life. There are a lot more variations than there used to be. But the point there is you have to be independent because they're making a commitment to you of what you will be paying for the remainder of your life. There are variations in the plans. In our area, there are 3 the true continuing care, life care communities, and they have variations within themselves: Westminster, Carinthia, and Longhorn Village. And then, like I say, others have kind of offshoots of that. So the answer, you know, yes, Cristy speaking to her specific community, but I do know I'm working with a woman now who's moving into one of the CCRCs. She did have to qualify, you know, in different areas that she is going to remain in independent living and not immediately have to jump into needing more care. What happens on those is you pay a large enrollment fee. There are variations, but it's based on the size of your apartment, and then you are going to pay that fee the remainder, whether if you're in independent living or should you need to move to assisted or memory care, whatever. And there'll be some increase for food, but it's for those people, it is a large down payment enrollment fee, but you're guaranteed, and it's great for people who have the means to do that. Upon your death, depending on the plan you're in, your estate may get 90% back or 80%. It varies now on those different plans they offer, but that's where you do have to qualify physically and financially. I hope that helped.
The Longhorn is where we heard that.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. That's, and they have variations on that too, and that they'll help you with that. But that's kind of the broad level question or answer for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Good answers.
Thank you, Carl. We have anyone else that has a question for our panelists this morning? Bob. Bob, if you could unmute.
Okay, I didn't see the unmute.
There you go.
Oh,
Good morning.
I got in late. Will we get something that has the contact information for each location and the names?
Yes, we will. We will
Okay.
provide information for each of our contacts of the panelists that are on today.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions?
No, not time. I've visited 2 or 3 places and still holding out at home. So,
Sure.
but I'm always looking.
Of course. We will send that information. Yeah, an email will go out. It'll have those handouts. It'll have the contact info for our panelists today. And then also there will be a recording posted to our website of this seminar today. So if you need to go back and rewatch any of it or pass it on to friends who you think this might be interesting to them, that will be available to you.
Okay.
All right. Nathan.
Interesting. I was looking for the unmute button and it pops up when you answer or respond on your side. I guess my question would be maybe specifically for Wesleyan, because you do have the kind of the 3 levels of care. And we've kind of briefly talked about not wanting to move, but the thought is as we start to age and our health changes and things like that, that ultimately we'll need a little bit more care as we go along. So I think Virginia said there's kind of a priority, or maybe Cristy said there was kind of a priority for moving from, say, independent living to assisted living, and then maybe ultimately to nursing care. So could you maybe talk a little bit about how you might investigate that from a tour perspective?
You're specifically asking how you would move from the different levels of care once you're a resident and independent at the Wesleyan, is that right?
Yes.
So you're right. As a resident, you do have priority in our assisted living community. And so ideally what we like to see happen is when someone recognizes that they do need a higher level of care, that we're able to kind of pre-plan that. And we have a transition team at the Wesleyan where we all communicate together. And so I would alert assisted living saying, hey, you know, we have a couple that may be ready to make that transition. What do you have available? And kind of slide into it. The other side of that coin is when there's a crisis driven move and we have an independent living resident that needs to make that move and it needs to happen right away. So there's a couple of things that we can do as an organization with our home health and our caregiver program, where sometimes we can band-aid that, and I would use that term loosely, to where we can meet those needs in the independent living setting until something opens up in assisted living. But then there are cases where that need is too great and that's just not enough. So in cases like that, we have had, and this doesn't happen often, but where we go out into the community with our partners in the community, different assisted livings, and try to help that family placement. And going back to Virginia's question that she answered about the Longhorn, that's why places like the Longhorn and Corinthia, you have a big buy-in, because they have guaranteed spaces and things for you. At the Wesleyan, we have more independent living apartments than we do assisted. That being said, one of the things that we've noticed as a trend in the industry is that people are staying in independent living longer with ancillary care coming in. And so we have our own services, but you're more than welcome to bring in any provider, third-party provider that you want to. So I think each individual case is unique. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan. Do we have any other hands up this morning? Yeah, we do. Robert and Ann. Good morning. Hi.
At this point, there are so many senior residential facilities being built. It's a growth industry in this region. Do Virginia and Brielle have any plans to update the directory that you created a few years ago to give us some idea of what that range is? Because they're popping up like mushrooms and they're all different.
And you just answered the question. trying to keep up with it is amazing. I was just sitting here thinking, yeah, we need to let people know about the directory, but it needs to be updated. Hey, Ann, you want a job? You want to help us update it? Thank you for volunteering. We'll be in touch.
It needs to be online so you can keep updating it regularly.
Well, you're right. In fact, we started to mention that too. We do have the communities listed online. Jeff, who is our marketing and web person and behind the scenes here with Zoom, is going to be panicking when I say this, that we do need to, it's out of date. So Jeff, there's our next assignment. Brielle can help us. We need to we need to bring up to date, and what we have done, it becomes never ending, but when we started both the website and the directory, we were trying to radiate out from the Georgetown area and look at, look at communities, especially in going into, Round Rock, Cedar Park, North Austin, and we, rather than go the whole area, because it is, and you're absolutely right. And I know that, just such an increase in the 55 plus apartments, and people becoming more aware of that as a resource. We've thought about independent living often, but I think for many people, it depends on your needs. I mean, I'll just kind of throw this out because it was kind of one of those eye openers for me. Last month, I believe, we had when we had seniors on our panel, Mary Carter was on, and as it turns out, she'd moved to Affinity. And when she had called about her desire to move and sell her home, and so and she was down there, she had this plan. So, Mary, where are you going? I'm going to Affinity. Oh, okay. So just curious what attracted you. And, often we see people going down down to our independent communities in Georgetown. And she said, well, I don't want the meal plan. So, this works better for me. And that's where knowing what's important to you, for some people, nope. That's why I'm going. I don't want to go to the grocery store. They're right there with Jacqueline. I don't want to have to worry about that stuff. Whereas, with Mary, she was saying, no, I like to do my meals. So there's something for everybody. But all right, we'll work on getting an update. You've issued the challenge to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. We have anyone else? Here we go, Catherine. Good morning, Catherine.
Yes, I see the unmute button. My question is really for Cristy because it's about waiting lists for your facility. And since you do have all 3 levels of care, I wanted to know if you could talk about waiting lists and then also about pets, any kind of pet policy.
Great question.
So the waiting list at the Wesleyan, we actually have a waiting list for every level of care. So unless it's a rehab situation where you're getting a joint replacement, you're going to go into our rehab, which Medicare covers, you would want to get on the wait list. But let's say you're on the independent living wait list and there's a situational change and you need to go to assisted living, that carries over. So being on one kind of covers you for every level of care. At independent living, it's a $200 non-refundable fee, and so that's how that works. For pets are allowed in independent living and assisted living, and so we do kind of interview the dog a little bit or the cat and make sure that they're people friendly, but for the most part, that's a non-issue, and there is a $500 pet deposit. It's a one-time fee.
I want to jump in there too about those wait lists, because we often have a lot of misunderstandings about that. Someone said, I've been on that list for 5 years and I haven't made it, and somebody else got an apartment. I mean, it's a complicated situation because what apartment, like I think Cristy mentioned earlier, her larger apartments have a really heavy demand. And if everybody's wanting a 2-bedroom apartment, there are a lot of people on that list. So sometimes people, and if the pets may limit the number of apartments available. I think for dogs, you have to be on the first floor Am I right, Cristy? So it's availability. So my point is, don't go by what your neighbors say when they say what the waiting list is, or the waiting list is specific to the individual. And we've often talked about this, and Brielle highlighted that as one of the questions on our handout. When people have said, well, okay, it's not my ideal apartment, but it's available, it's been offered to me, I'm going to move in there. And then when my ideal apartment becomes available, there would be the opportunity for me to move. In some cases, people have learned, hey, I like this one better, I'm staying put. So those are considerations. And one thing I wanted to throw in about the questions, we got a little carried away on the questions. It's a very long list of questions. We'd keep brainstorming ideas of what somebody would ask, or someone else would say, well, I always want to know this. So we put them in there. Don't go through all the questions. And please don't hand them to the person you're meeting with and say, well, these are my questions. They will never speak to me again. So, but it's meant to be a jogger of memory jogger, what's important to you. And that, I think when I work with people in this area, I often see we start broad. We don't, it's kind of like a very vague, we don't know what we're going to do. But we see as we visit and as we begin to think about what's really important to us, that's where you have to be clear. How important is it to me? Meal plan is my big hang up with these. I mean, I just such a differentiation, is there a meal plan or not? If there is a meal plan, are there 3 meals a day at a certain time? Or are there options? Or is there dining that I can order and there's also a pick up and go or whatever? So, what's important to you? Fortunately, we all like different things.
We have other hands up this morning. Rena.
Hi, I'm Rena's daughter. We had a question about downsizing. It said something about downsizing from a larger house, and we're hoping to get some advice about what that would.
That's a tough one.
Because we have, so my mom had lived with her mother, and for many years, and so there's a lot of things, a lot of memorabilia, and we're just looking for some advice on the best way to go through that.
So Rena, you just kind of skipped right to the ad for our September webinar. So really, if you're looking at, I want to start touring, but then you open your garage or your closet, or you walk around your house and look around and go, I have too much stuff and I can't even fathom starting this process. Next month is actually going to be when you want to join us. We'll be doing a whole seminar about the downsizing and liquidating and donating and what do I do with all of this stuff. But Virginia is really the contact, the downsizing guru. We have a downsizing club that meets once a month to talk through as a community how to go through that process and all the things that are involved with downsizing. And we can certainly touch base with you with more information about that. But yeah, next month is really going to be a great seminar for y'all to attend.
So Rena, that was a great question. I mean, the chuckles around are just because that's, if we had the answer to that question for everybody very easily, it would be wonderful. But one of the things as a downsizing coach, I'm happy to meet with people about general plans and kind of, see what options there might be. The important part of that downsizing, it came out in several of the presenters today, is that to be able to enjoy life. It's when our home, and we've seen that in so many of our presentations, both from professionals in the field and especially from our senior panelists, about how taking away some of the burden of managing my home and being able to enjoy life in a little bit different way. Some of us, I'm going to stay in my home. Well, as we've said today, in some cases that takes away some of our freedom sometimes. But the thing we want to, I'm happy to visit with people about is to be aware of some of the resources and services and just having a plan. It's doable. And they're there, those of us there to support people in that. So reach out or we'll follow up with you. And it can be an interesting journey. I choose my words carefully here. One thing I do encourage, it came out today in a number of ways too, is the more involved the family is early on, I think sometimes, and I think the people in the communities will recognize, I know they'll recognize this, if we come together, what's the best for the senior? Sometimes parents, my kids don't want me to move there, or kids think their parents don't want to move there. But if we work together and as professionals, we can help support them in making that move, it can really reduce the stress. And that's what we want to do. I see Gary has a hand up. Gary.
Virginia, I'm not one to not take the opportunity to make a comment. And I would like to say that I'm disappointed that we couldn't meet in person. So I feel captive in my home. But I also want to thank you for another great seminar. And take care of yourself.
Thanks. No, we had this extended discussion about my roles should be today. And like I said, I just don't have all the full energy. And if we keep the coughing under control, I know we were all very disappointed not to be back together. Gary's been one of our big supporters at First Presbyterian. Gary was I think he was one of our attendees at our very first, one of our early seminars 6 years ago at the library. And I still remember, Gary, when you stood up and said, why aren't there more people here? And that was when we had like 12 people, and now we have 40 and more. Because I do see this as an important service we can provide for people. We do look forward to being back as live seminars at First Presbyterian when we can. And it's been an interesting journey. For some people, they like the webinars because it's for caregiving or mobility issues. It's a challenge to go to the live seminars. Others, it's they think, oh, I can stay in my bathrobe and not have to get dressed and go out. It's pretty convenient. So anyway, but when we go live, when we can, we will continue to record the webinars and make them available. Jacqueline, you were waving.
I was going to tell Gary, if he's feeling a little captive today, there's 3 panelists on the Zoom meeting that would love to have you as our guest today.
So if you need
come on out.
If you need something to do, Gary, we will give you direct contact information. And they will entertain you.
Do we have anyone else this morning that has a question for our panel?
It's Nathan again.
Oh, yeah.
Given the COVID situation, what is your current touring like, or restrictions or anything around that as far as somebody coming to visit?
We don't have any right now, Nathan. We do have a screening process that you have to go through to get into a community where we take your temperature, you answer a series of questions. We are asking that all of our tours do mask up. Our residents have the option as to whether or not they want to mask, but people coming in the building do not. They do have to wear their masks. So right now it's business as usual, and we continue to monitor the situation very closely.
Same thing here. We're following the local government mandate. So right now masks are optional. But if you come and see me and you are wearing a mask and you would like for me to wear a mask, I would gladly wear one for you. But same thing, our guests, our residents don't have to, and we can't make them. But we're very careful, and we do ask people, if you're not feeling well, let's just reschedule.
And
Erin,
Erin?
what's the policy at Affinity?
So right now we are allowing for people who are vaccinated to not have to wear a mask, but it's entirely up to them. For those who are not vaccinated, we are asking that they continue to wear a mask at this point. And of course, if they're not feeling well, if they have a fever, we do ask that they reschedule for when they're feeling better.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anybody else this morning? All right. Well, I want to thank our panelists again, Jacqueline, Cristy, and Erin. You all have been fantastic, and we appreciate you sharing your expertise and how things are done in your different communities. And it helps to know that these are community standards in the industry, really. And so we're thankful for your time, and as usual, just being here with us. And for all of our attendees, again, that flexibility to switch to go back online, we just can't thank you enough for your support and continuing to be with us. And we're so glad that you take advantage of the service. Virginia is always doing the thanking, and since I get to do some speaking today, I'd like to thank Virginia for her vision and for sharing the resources that she does with our community, because it's priceless. And to do this as a free service to the people that live in our community is just really such a treasure to us. And so we thank Virginia for all that she does, and for her great insights that she always shares. And we were glad that you were feeling well enough to be with us this morning. We do want to encourage all of you to sign up for next month. Like I said, if you're looking at really wanting to start this process but feeling a little bit overwhelmed with things in your home, next month is Your Stuff Holding You Back. And that's going to be on September the 16th. We have made the decision that it will be online again in light of the current situation, and we'll just continue to navigate through that as everyone else is. And when it's a good time for us to return back safely to be together, we will certainly do that. We cannot wait to be in person with you. And we will send out an email with those handouts. So you've got those questions, like Virginia said, don't go in and ask every single one, but really go through it, highlight the things that are important to you. And then it's there as a resource so that you don't forget those things when you're in the moment. We'll have this recording available online next week. And again, share it with your friends, rewatch it if you need to. Contact us. My email is available. It should be in all of the communications that you get from us, but it is admin@seniorsliving.smarter.com. Please feel free to email with any questions that you might have. And we look forward to seeing you all again next month. Virginia.
And I want to thank Brielle and the panelists and Jeff and everybody for stepping in. And it was fun just to kind of be more in the background. I know I just think so much valuable information is shared, and I'm just so pleased to have the opportunity to connect with people throughout the industry. I really do want seniors to have the information and your families to have the information. So it's been great. Brielle, you were one. I may get fired from being a host now because you did such a good job. But anyway,
No.
so anything else? But otherwise, we hope to see you in September. Do reach out for us. And yeah, we're working to solve those downsizing questions for you, or to help you have a plan to solve them.